Record. Awesome. Hello, awesome authors. It's been a minute, but here we are on Thursday, the 26th of October. I'm so excited to be here with you. If you're watching live in the Facebook group, then please let me know where you're watching from, what time is it where you are, and any exciting things that you are working on at the moment on your book. If you're watching the YouTube podcast or listening back, then please like, subscribe, and share. This channel is dedicated to Kingdom authors who want to make a difference by using the written word. And with every subscription, every like, every share, you help us build the platform and extend our reach. So we appreciate you being here and part of this process. Today, I get to speak to the wonderful Kristina Risinger. Kristina is a wife, a mom. She's the host of the podcast Faith Breathed Hope. And she's also the author of Life After Losing a Loved One, How to Turn Grief into Hope, Strength, and Purpose. And she's also written a children's book, and I think she's written more than one, right? You're in the process of doing some more. We'll talk about that in a bit. But her children's book is available on Amazon, and it's called The Adventures of Lily and Izzy B, The Imagination Journey. How exciting. Thank you so much, Kristina, for being with me.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here tonight.
Awesome. So tell me a little bit about what called you to write your book. I've listened to your podcast. I know a little bit about your story, and I'd love for you to share with the readers a little bit about that.
Absolutely. First of all, can you hear me okay? You're good?
You can put your volume up maybe a little bit if you can.
Okay. Yeah. So is that a little better? Okay.
That's good.
So everybody has a story, and mine started out with a child loss. We had 4 children we had 6. It's complicated. We have a big family, but we had one at the 4th child passed away, and she was born with something called trisomy 18, and she lived almost to her 1st birthday. And for me, doing all the things afterwards were a way to heal, because some people sit down and they don't do anything. They pull away from everybody, and there are others that just dive into so many different things. And I was the one that dove into all kind of things. I started a blog, I guess thinking that I was going to talk to other moms who had lost, about healing and grief. And then I tried to do other things, and I started a podcast in 2019, which you mentioned, Faith Breathed Hope, and started writing this book. I had always thought that maybe I would write a book. I love to write, but never really had the courage to do so. And when Isabella passed away, it was just a tool. It was really just a tool to help me. I guess in some way with the book and the podcast, I thought that I was helping everybody else. I was saying, okay, hey, I've been there, I've done that, and I want to try to save you from some of the pain, which is really unrealistic, because if you go through these things, you have that pain anyways. It's just this idea of knowing that you're not alone, knowing that other people have gone through that, and it may or may not be comforting, but in a way it is, because you're saying, okay, I don't want you to be in pain. I don't want you to grieve. However, we kind of walk that same path, and you're going to survive this. You're going to move forward through this. And so I started, actually hired a coach and started writing this. And I had thought actually that I would write a book about trisomy 18, because when Isabella was diagnosed, they kept telling us she was incompatible with life.
Right.
And so I desperately wanted everybody to understand that she was compatible with life. Not in the way that you may think, as far as, she did end up passing away, but in a way that all the people that told us that we should abort, all the people that told us that her life was not worth saving, in my humble opinion, were wrong. And so I would do it over and over and over, even regardless of the pain, because of the fact that she taught me so much.
Yeah.
life was able to be compatible with mine, with that life and that love. And she
Yeah.
just taught me how to love more than I thought I ever could.
Yeah.
And but the book that came out was Life After Losing a Loved One: How to Turn Grief into Hope, Strength, and Purpose. So it was kind of a plea to help others and also for healing myself.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's so beautiful that God takes these our ashes, these deep places of pain, and he uses it not only to make something beautiful that can serve others in his kingdom, but to help heal us in that creative process as well. I remember when I wrote my book, I had a very similar experience. Going back to some of the traumatic events that I've experienced, I realized that there was actually some deep places in my own heart that needed to be healed. And through that writing process, it was just amazing to see how much more healing is available, how much more freedom is available, and how God met me in that process of just writing and sitting with him, going through that process and unpacking all of these things. So thank you so much for sharing your story. It's just so amazing what you've done with your beautiful story and celebrating the beautiful life of your daughter, really. And this is part of her legacy on earth as well. So that's gorgeous. What did you enjoy about the writing and publishing process?
Well, I gotta say, the thing that was the neatest to me was the bubble mapping. I had not used that actually a lot. And, I'm a type A person, but I'm a creative. So I tend to lose some of that organization with all my thoughts. I have
Yes.
5 million things that flood my brain at once, and it's hard to like just get them down in the right order. And if you were to see where I work, I use note cards all the time. And so I write down things. And so I'll have, I don't know, hundreds of note cards at any time where I could just kind of put them in order. But the bubble mapping really helped me to organize those thoughts. So I was excited. And it's a tool that I can use to teach my children as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. For those who haven't heard about it before, can you just give a brief explanation of what that is?
Yeah. So it's like a bubble, several little bubbles. You have one major bubble in the middle, and that is your topic. And so out from that bubble comes branches, and those branches end up being your chapters. So you may have an introductory chapter on what is grief. So I think I did that at the beginning. And so, or the 5 stages or whatever the stages of grief are. And so from your main topic, you would have that one subtopic. And then out of that subtopic, you're going to have all these different thoughts and ideas of how you would fill in that chapter. And it just is really a great tool to help that workflow, to help you organize those thoughts. Okay, well, I want this to be in the book, but I'm not really sure where I want it to be. Well, you have all those subgroups, and you can
Yeah,
go back and look and see where the best place to fit that is. And it
yeah,
really the flow of your writing.
that's so cool. And I think especially for people who are maybe a bit more visual,
Mhm.
they want to see everything in front of them. I know I have a friend, I'm just going to shout, Tammy, I know this will be useful for you because I know she loves everything, visual and to be able to see all the parts. Um, awesome. What was your biggest challenge as an author?
I think the biggest challenge was just getting it out there, having the courage to say, hey, I wrote this, and not worrying about the scrutiny of everybody who was, I mean, I had it edited. I had several family members look at it after it was edited and fix some things. And there's still probably tons of things that need to be fixed again, like to rewrite it. But it's just that courage to say, hey, this is my work. And that I think comes with anything that we do, but it was extra because of all that we had gone through with losing her. You had to be very vulnerable.
Yes.
And so that vulnerability and that courage that's needed to say, hey, you know what, I've worked hard on this, and I'm going to take pride in it. And yeah, it may not be perfect. Um, but I can make it better later. I'm just going to get it out there. And I know that some people probably don't think that way. Some people want it perfect before it hits the it goes out there and everybody can look at it. But I think there's a point to where you keep wanting perfection and it doesn't come, because you keep critiquing and you keep critiquing and you find that there's always one more thing.
That's right. I know the feeling. Like, I went to art school. I'm an artist. I like to have things extra perfect. But I remember, just as, with painting, like, that painting is just never done. There's always something you can do to it to make it better. And it is very difficult. It can be quite debilitating for certain people, because that need to have everything in the right place and everything perfect kind of can hold us back from taking that step to just share what's on our hearts. And I have become a little bit braver as I've stepped out and put some stuff out. But oh my goodness, I've experienced insecurities. English isn't my first language. So, when I hit the first publish button on a blog, like, my hands were sweating, my heart was pounding, because, it's, I think, and sharing a message like you did, that is it's you're opening your heart to the world and inviting them in. And that's risk. That is a huge risk. So, yeah, it does take a lot of courage. It does take a lot of courage. So well done for doing that.
Can I share one other thing?
Yeah, yeah.
Another thing, this was not with the book, but I wrote an article for, I wrote several articles for online magazines, and I wrote for what I believe, she's an online friend of mine, and she took some time with me. One day we were on the phone, and she was talking to me about my writing, and I grew up very, everything is professional. You and I talked about that a little bit earlier, that everything has to be a certain way. And so when I was like that, I was unwilling to allow certain things to come out, to be vulnerable, to expose those pain points, I guess, if you will, right now. And so she kind of coached me up a little bit on the fact that, hey, you need to let the reader in on like how you really feel. Don't try to keep everything in a tight box, if you will. Don't try to keep it in such a way that everything looks perfect, but be vulnerable, lay all those things out. And that's really difficult for some people. I know it is for me.
Yeah. And I think there's something really powerful that happens when we do that, because it really connects with people. When we do open our hearts and we show what it really is like inside, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And one of the things that I learned that was a bit of an eye-opener for me when I was in the writing process is that my book isn't really about me and my story. It's about the reader and them connecting with my story. Like, what is my story going to do for them? So unless I am real and open and vulnerable with them, I'm not just sharing my story for everybody's sake. I'm sharing my story specifically for that person who is dealing with trauma or dealing with loss or grief, or, so when you think about that person that you're writing for, that's something that's really helped me be a little bit more brave with opening up. But you're right. It's not as easy as it seems. It's a hard thing to do, to take that risk and open your heart to the world, because anybody has access to that message, right? So yeah.
It's a fine line between just vomiting all of the information that's inside of you out and finding a way to shed some of that formality, and be vulnerable. I think there's a fine line between those two, because you don't want it to look like an ugly mess, but you want to be able to reach other people so that, like I said before, they know that they're not alone.
Yeah. If you had one piece of advice for a new writer who's getting ready to write and publish their book, what would that be?
I would tell them exactly what I tell my kids. If you want to be a writer, you need to write every day. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean you have to write your book every day, but like my 12-year-old wants to be an author. And I told him, you need to write a little bit every day. It doesn't have to be the book you're working on. It can be just journaling. I'm also a grief coach, and so we encourage journaling a lot. But it can be journaling, it can be fiction. You play with words. It will flow better that way, so that when you're ready to write your book, the things will naturally come out. So it's just conditioning, it's exercise, just as you would for a sport or anything like that.
Yeah, awesome. I love that. And that's something I encourage my group to do as well. Like, take a bit of time every day, even if it's 10 minutes, just sit down, write something. So one of the reasons why I started my blog is just I want to get some practice in writing. So yeah, solid advice. So you've written a children's book as well. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about the children's story? What is it about? And, cool.
So it's actually a series. So it's the Adventures of Lily and Ezzy B. And the first one is the Imagination Journey. And I started writing it because of my daughter. She's almost 9, but at the time she was 5. And, she was only 1 when her sister passed away. And so, maybe she was 2. Anyways, sorry, she was still a baby. But anyway, I didn't think that she understood the loss, because she didn't, she wasn't really old enough to really bond with Isabella. Isabella had nurses around all the time. So we didn't really the kids didn't spend a lot of time, especially at least. And, but she started crying. And what I came to find out was that in her mind, she still understood that she was supposed to have a sister. Maybe she didn't actually remember Isabella as she was, but she remembers and she knows that she was supposed to have a sister. She saw her brothers and they have a room together. They have bunk beds. She saw how they played together and she knew she was supposed to have a sister. And so therefore, in her mind, that's what it was supposed to look like for her. And so she was mourning the loss of what should have been. And so I was trying to find a way to help her be able to deal with her grief, even at 5 years old. And I was like, gosh, I don't even know what to do with this, and I think that's a parent's also a challenge, because when you have anybody that passes away, whether it would be a spouse or another child, you're not only grieving for that loss, but you're also having to figure out how to help your children, if you have other children, deal with that loss as well. And so I wrote this, and it's going to be a series. It's not completely finished. I have several of the books written. They're just not published. The second one was supposed to come out soon, hopefully within the next month, hopefully before the end of this year. But they're based on the fruit of the Spirit. So the first one was just an introductory thing, and it's about a little girl who has lost her sister. And her mother tells her, hey, you can go on an imagination journey. You can, close your eyes and you can imagine your sister and playing with her. And the imagination journeys take place in heaven. And so, the next book is called The Book of Love. So again, it goes from the fruit of the Spirit, and it'll go and follow the fruit of the Spirit throughout the series. So
awesome. That sounds so awesome. Like, genuinely so cool. I think that's, again, such a powerful thing to do for children who experience loss as well. But I'm sure every child will get something really beautiful, and I'm sure their parents as well, as they read the stories. Sounds amazing. So if we want to connect with you and we want to get hold of those books, what is the best place? Where's the best place to go?
Well, the books are on Amazon, so they're under my name, Kristina Risinger. But right now, I currently have a link tree. You can also follow the podcast. Everything is right now under Abundantly Rooted Life on Linktree. And then if there's Faith Breathed Hope, and we have a second podcast called Abundantly Rooted.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I will pop the links into the comment section so that anybody who wants them can have access. There is a link in the description to Kristina's Linktree. So make sure to follow and go and check out her resources and her books. They sound absolutely awesome. Kristina, thank you so much for sharing your beautiful story. and your resources and your life journey, and especially your author journey. I know I've got an audience who are always eager to hear about other writers in process and what that looked like for them. And it's such a blessing. So thank you so much for your time. Thanks everybody who's been listening, and have an awesome day.
Thank you, Meliza. I appreciate you having me.
You're welcome. Thanks. Bye, everyone.